Lady Nagant fires her last bullet, Shigaraki fights All For One, and Midoriya and the Prince of Evil both go beyond plus ultra. Let's talk about all of this and more as we dive right into the newest chapter of My Hero Academia. So My Hero Academia Chapter 379 is finally out, and with it, the shocking twists and revelations of the climactic battle between good and evil continue. Horikoshi is hitting us with one bombshell after another. It's like a goddamn minefield out here, and you better watch out because you're about to explode. And so, without further ado, let's jump right into My Hero Academia Chapter 379, titled Hopes. This chapter opens up with a flashback to Central Hospital moments after Kurogiri woke up. The entire hospital is in a massive panic, and we see stumbling through the hallways a still severely injured Lady Nagant. As our beloved beauty makes her way through the halls, she's confronted by a suspiciously Italian plumber-looking doctor, who yells at her to stop moving around as her body is in critical condition. But classic Nagant, in hearing this, simply replies, "Mamma mia, shut up your face!" I'd like to apologize for that horrible impression, but she does tell him to shut up and to just tell her the enemy's location, as she mentions how when Midoriya saved her from falling during their fight, he asked her to fight for the heroes once again. In hearing this, the doctor explains how legally he can't tell her anything as she's still technically under police custody. But luckily for Nagant, in this moment the hero Rocklock appears and declares that he will allow her to join the war, handing her a small electronic device with all the information she needs on the villains. Rocklock, the guy who everyone forgets about but is always there when you need him. This dude's seen a lot. And following this, the story cuts right back to the present, where we see that after firing the bullet at Shigaraki, Nagant's injured body begins to tear itself apart, with blood shooting through all of her bandages. However, our beloved sniper hero, yes, I'm calling her a hero, fight me on this, isn't done yet, as she forces herself back into position and thinks about how she wants to get at least one more shot off on Shigaraki to pay back Hawks and Deku for bringing her out of the darkness and reminding her why she fights. God, she's so badass. And she does just that, shooting another bullet that pierces right through Shigaraki's other hand mere seconds before he can touch the ground and activate Decay. But that's it for Nagant, as this second shot proves too much for her broken body to handle and she collapses on the ground. Midoriya, realizing that the two villains he reached out to are now the very ones helping him save the world, can't help but smile. And inside the Vestige world of All For One himself does not smile, but screams out in anger. That's right, Vestige All For One exclaims his frustrations with Nagant, mentioning how he doesn't understand how someone like her, who had gone so far off the path of a hero after killing not only innocent people, but even her own allies, could possibly find herself back on the path of justice. Basically, All For One is pissed that Lady Nagant, a person who should be considered unredeemable, was saved. That's the power of Midoriya for you, inspiring people to be heroes since 2014. And with this frustration, something we rarely ever see in All For One, comes his downfall, as countless fingers and hands begin to grossly spread out from his mouth. Accompanying these fingers is the voice of Shigaraki, who begins to laugh at his mentor, mocking him for thinking he could just use other people without repercussions. Shiggy then goes on to say that he knows All For One only raised him so that he could use his identity against All Might, and he knows that All For One only promoted the hatred that lies within him so that he could use it himself to steal One For All. But alas, just like everyone else All For One has used, it's time Shiggy turned against him. Tomura then explains how All For One's plan to fuse both his own essence and Shiggy's together seemed to have worked, but unfortunately for All For One, in In truth, Shigaraki never let his essence fully go, as he kept his, and I quote, origin hidden deep within his heart, and all this time has been secretly fighting against All For One within the Vestige world to get his body back. As we see inside All For One, a little Tenko Shimura finally escaping and crawling away from all the hands that have been holding him back. All For One, actually panicking, uses his last bit of control over Shigi's body to call to Kurogiri, ordering him to teleport them to All For One's original body. But upon hearing this request, the shroud around Kurogiri begins to flicker, as he says he needs to protect Shigaraki. And suddenly, the smoke around Kurogiri's face slowly begins to fade, revealing more of Shirakumo's face, as he calls out, "Who, where, friend?" Oh my god, Shirakumo is still fighting in there! I'm coming, buddy! I just tried to jump into my screen like a dumbass. But anyway, after All For One's failed attempt to escape, Shigaraki continues his speech by saying that he doesn't need All For One anymore. That, just like Lady Nagant and Gentle, he knows why he fights. And the reason he fights is because of what he experienced in that godforsaken house in which he was born. It's because of that house that both Tomura Shigaraki and Tenko Shimura share the exact same dream. And as Shigaraki says all of this, we see now coming out of the hands in All For One's mouth is Shigaraki himself. God, that's beautifully disgusting. Shigi finally ends this speech by stating, "Our dream is to destroy everything that has to do with that house," as he smiles in the real world, revealing to us that Tomura Shigaraki has fully returned. Now, with full control of his body back, Tomura calls out to Midoriya, "And that's the only thing that would save me, hero," referring to his dream to destroy everything to do with his family home, aka his desire to destroy everything the Hero Society has created. However, mere moments after saying this, Midoriya, sick of all this talking, leaps at Shigaraki, ties up his hands with Black Whip, and to both Mirio and Gentle's surprise, jumps right off the floating UA and onto the rubble-filled streets below. Midoriya justifies this decision by claiming that Shigaraki has access to all of his quirks now, so the purpose of the floating structure is gone. And I mean, kind of? But anyway, with this, chapter 379 comes to a close, as Deku, in response to hearing Shigaraki's dream, exclaims, "I won't let you do that, but I'm also not going to ignore the you who was crying," as we are greeted with this absolutely amazing image of Midoriya facing off against a monstrous-looking Shigaraki as lightning strikes and the burning remains of UA is barely held afloat in the background. It's so damn cool! Overall, this was another great chapter. Horikoshi really came back and said, "Ayo, watch this shit. The man's been cooking." Shigaraki taking back control from All For One was actually fantastic to see, and I'm delighted to have this menacing, sadistic, mastermind man-child back in the driver's seat against our main man Midoriya. This story has always been about Midoriya and Shigaraki. We saw both of these characters learn, change, and grow into the symbols of fear and hope they are today. So it's only fitting that Shigaraki, now wielding the quirk of evil, All For One, and Midoriya wielding the quirk of good, One For All, get to face off against one another as themselves. Look, I like All For One as a character and all, but he's All Might's arch nemesis, not Midoriya's. Lady Nagant getting taken out of the fight after firing just 2 bullets is a little bit of a bummer, but makes total sense considering she did, you know, explode. But let me know what you thought of this chapter. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. For more My Hero content, subscribe to the Lunchtime crew. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra.